Okay, hello and welcome. I think that just started the meeting. So we're going to give it another minute or so just to let some other people join. This meeting is being recorded, so it will be available online afterwards as well. Donna and Laura, you might just see, do you need to admit people as they join there now?
Grand altogether, we'll keep an eye on that. Everyone is in with us. We can start by even doing our introductions anyway, and if other people are joining us, maybe they'll have a sense of who we are anyway. Sure.
Yeah. And you can see my screen there, Donna, can you?
Yeah, can see the full screen, no problem. Yeah.
Perfect, great. Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Mark Falvey. I am the Climate and Sustainability Officer for SECAD, and I'm joined by my two colleagues, Donna Carey and Laura Byron. Donna, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Donna. I work as a development officer in the SECAD area of West Cork, which is a portion starting around Kinsale and continuing along that coastal strip. So our main towns being Kinsale, Clonakilty, Rosscarbery, Skibbereen and the hinterland around those towns. I've been with SECAD since June 2019 and worked for a few other local development companies before that. I've spent some time on the social inclusion program and joined Leader in 2025, just last year. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Donna. Laura?
Hi everyone, I'm Laura and I'm the Cork Development Officer at SECAD. So thank you very much for joining us today. I've been with SECAD for nearly 3 years. I would have worked on the LAS team for 2 years and then I would have joined the Leader program about a year ago. I come from a business background myself. So at the moment, I'm working on the Rural Infrastructure and Social Inclusion call, which Mark will briefly touch on shortly.
Great. Thanks, Donna, and thanks, Laura. We'll show those maps of the Leader SECAD areas later as well, just so people can get an idea where Donna and Laura are working. And I'll be working myself across both those areas, supporting Donna and Laura. So I suppose this webinar will have some information on our new call, which is the Sustainable Development of the Rural Environment and Climate Change Mitigation and Adaption. We will have a Q&A at the end. We're just going to use the Q&A function. If there's any questions people want to ask afterwards, they can email us as well. And as I said at the start, this meeting is being recorded, so we will make it available on the website after. So that's us. That's the team. And if you have any queries, the email you send them to is leader@secad.ie. So I suppose the Leader program comes out in a few years of a chunk. So it's 23 to 27 at the moment. So we're coming to the end of this Leader program, but the Leader program itself has been running since 1991. And it covers kind of 3 principles around networking, cooperation, innovation, integrated and multi-sectoral actions, local public-private partnership, bottom-up implementation, area-based local development strategies. So Leader is a really, I suppose, useful grant for community groups and social enterprises and businesses, and is funded through the EU. So already in this program, SECAD have, I suppose, had core the 2 other teams under this Leader program. So the 3 teams under this Leader 2023 to 2027 are the Rural Infrastructure and Social Inclusion team. So there is a small bit of a remaining budget in that. And then the other team that we've kind of concluded was the economic development and job creation team, and that budget is pretty much kind of gone through now. So we've just launched the final team, the sustainable development of the rural environment and climate change mitigation and adaptation. It's a bit of a mouthful, but we'll kind of go into the sub themes a bit later. But it's a very broad call, and it's mostly open to, I suppose, community groups who are looking at environmental projects. So I suppose as of now, the call is open for expressions of interest. So you can go onto the SECAD website and download an expression of interest form, which you fill out some basic details, a brief project outline, and then you send that in to one of the development officers or myself. We encourage people who are thinking about submitting an expression of interest to contact us beforehand and maybe just talk through the idea on the phone to see can we give you some guidance around that. So I suppose for this call, we're really looking at projects in the SECAD leader areas that are going to, I suppose, increase resilience to climate change, that are going to have, I suppose, strong environmental impacts on local communities, on local biodiversity. And there's, I suppose, 3 sub-themes within this call. So there's sustainable development of the rural environment, there's climate change mitigation and adaptation, and there's climate change capacity building. So that in itself is very broad. A group will apply for a project under one of those sub-themes. There is, I suppose, more criteria with the call. That's all available on the SECAD website. So for anyone that isn't familiar with the leader process, it is quite a, I suppose, onerous process. So when we're talking to groups about potentially submitting a leader application, we want to make sure they're aware of, I suppose, the work that goes into a leader application. So I suppose there's, as you can see to that diagram there, there's kind of several elements to the application stage. So I suppose we're at the very start of that at the moment in terms of animation and support. So I suppose encouraging groups to think about what projects they could bring forward in their communities. And then after that, a group will submit an expression of interest. The development officers will review that expression of interest and deem whether it is eligible or not to come forward for a full application. And I suppose that's the kind of first check of many within the application process. So once a group is then invited to make a full application, we will send them out an application pack. And it could take a group a month or two to, I suppose, get the full application together. Once that application is sent back to us, there are several, I suppose, checks in that application. We make sure, I suppose, a group has, say, tax clearance, certificates in place, that they might have planning permission if that's required for a project. We just make sure, I suppose, everything within the project is there to make sure the project can move forward. And then once that's all in place, those projects, that application is brought to an independent evaluation committee, which is made up of volunteers who assess projects based on several criteria and score them. And if that project is deemed to have, I suppose, passed, then that application can be brought to the local action group, where it is either approved or not. And I suppose if it's made that far and through all the checks of the development officers and the independent evaluation committee, it usually is approved then at the local action group. And then we're almost there. A letter of offer and contract is sent out. So at that stage, the group can, I suppose, move forward with the project. They can get their contractors in to complete the work. and then after that, they claim for the payment. So it is a retrospective grant. The payment is made after the works are complete, but the works must not be complete until after the contract is signed. And then I suppose it is an EU-funded program. There are inspections and audits of projects regularly to make sure that the money is used correctly. So under a leader project, there are different, I suppose, categories of projects, and those are funded at different rates. So if you're doing capital works as a community group, it's funded up to 75% grant aid. So the group has to then match that funding with the 25% costs associated with the project. If a group is looking for a analysis and development grant, which would usually be a feasibility study for something, that can be funded up to 90% grant aid, but that is capped at 30,000. And then training grants can be funded up to 100%, but there are quite strict criteria with those training grants. So I suppose we envisage in this call that it will be mainly community groups coming forward. So I suppose just when you're looking there at the rate of aid and the maximum funding, that you're looking at the community section there. So I suppose, as mentioned earlier, SECAD is working across 2 leader areas, but we share those leader areas with other development companies. So this is the South Cork leader area, which Laura is in charge of. So we work there, I suppose, say Youghal to Carrigaline, and then over as well in the Muskerry Gaeltacht. And then our other leader area is the West Cork leader area. So as Donna was saying earlier, it's kind of the coastal area of West Cork as far as Baltimore. So it is quite a large area. But just make sure, I suppose, before looking at an expression of interest or before looking at this grant, that you are within that leader area. If your project is outside of that area, it won't be eligible. But we would encourage you to contact the other, I suppose, local development companies that are in your area, and they may have leader funding available as well. So here I have a list of a few ineligible projects. So I suppose leader is funded under CAP. So if the Common Agricultural Policy, if CAP is funding something already, the leader program is not allowed to also funding it. That would be kind of double funding. So anything around primary agriculture, fisheries, purchase of animals or livestock, conventional retail operations, cars and vehicles, we cannot fund. Operational costs, we also can't fund. And I suppose retrospective projects is also a big one. So we can fund a project that's already been completed. So if your group has, I suppose, built a new community centre, you can't apply to leader after the fact for that money. But there are, I suppose, a full list of ineligible projects as well up on the website. On the leader website as well, the government leader website, there are more criteria there, and there's more guidance there as well. So I suppose this is the kind of context to the environmental call, as we're calling it, because the sustainable development of the rural environment and climate change mitigation and adaptation call takes a while to say. So under the environmental call, I suppose we're looking across a wide range of environmental issues. So I suppose biodiversity loss, food security, water quality, energy security and energy poverty, and extreme weather resilience. So I suppose under this call, we do expect a wide range of projects to come in from, it could be a community garden or maybe a sensory garden, to solar panels on a community centre. It could be, I suppose, a training program around water quality. We're looking for, I suppose, projects that are innovative as well. And that is something that a project will be scored on in the application process. Whether the project is, I suppose, is new and is serving a need to the local community and is, I suppose, high impact as well. So I suppose to submit an expression of interest, you can either contact myself or one of the development officers, and we will send you on an expression of interest form, or they're also available for download off of the SECAD website. Usually a group will, I suppose, talk to us before they write the expression of interest. But we might also, I suppose, talk them through the expression of interest. So they might do an initial expression of interest, and we might go back to them and say, maybe consider this aspect or this aspect, and they'll send in a revised expression of interest. So I suppose we're here to support groups through the process, and that is our role, and try and advise where we can. So I suppose if you or your group are thinking about applying to leader funding, there are, I suppose, some key considerations before putting in an application or an expression of interest. So I suppose the term we've been using is shovel-ready projects. So we want projects that maybe, if it's construction work, that they have their planning permission in place, that they have, I suppose, bridging finance ready to avail of, that they have their match funding secured. A big thing for community groups is that they own the land or they're building, or that they can get a long-term lease of that. So ownership of the assets. And then something we also look at is the governance of a group. So a lot of community groups are now set up as companies limited by guarantee or registered charities. And I suppose that tells us that the group has the governance and structure in place to ensure that the funds are used correctly. And then I suppose alignment with the local development strategies across the two leader areas. And we'll also look at, I suppose, the ability of a group to complete the project. So if there's a very new group coming forward for funding and they're looking for a lot of money, we might ask them what experience they have in delivering projects like this or in applying for grants. So if a group can show that they have, I suppose, a strong history of being awarded funding and completing projects, that will, I suppose, benefit that group as well. So I suppose the next steps for anyone thinking about applying to funding is to submit an expression of interest as soon as possible. So with a rolling leader call, there is no timeline on the call, but we function on, I suppose, a first come, first served basis. So if we had 50 groups come forward in the next month with their applications, our budget would be used up. But we don't envisage that. So like the applications will usually take a couple of months to come in. But if you're thinking about a project, definitely do contact us. Definitely do submit an expression of interest, and we can kind of get that ball moving there. So once an expression of interest comes into us, and is deemed eligible, we'll send out the group a application pack. So there's a lot of information in this application pack. There's a lot of documents. The group will go through and, I suppose, fill out the application form. They'll be asked to go about and do some costings or complete procurement. They'll have to kind of get all the documents together. So say a tax clearance cert, whether they're registered for VAT or not, and proof of that, and proof of any planning permission required or planning exemptions, and I suppose how they're financing the project. We would also look for, I suppose, community plans or social inclusion plans that the group has in place to ensure that, I suppose, the funding is going to support a long-term project and is not just a once-off project in an area. So I was trying to get to that as quickly as possible because I didn't want to keep you in this heat wave. So I suppose on behalf of myself, Donna and Laura, thank you very much. My contact email is there, as is the leader inbox. If you have any questions at all, feel free to throw them into the Q&A now, and we'll do our best to answer them. If there's anything we can't answer at the moment, we will get back to you. I have your emails from the registration, so I can contact you after the webinar. And yeah, I suppose if there's I suppose an idea you want to work out with us, or there's a concept you've been thinking about, feel free to contact us, and we're happy to kind of help and support the development of that idea. So I suppose if there's any questions, we're happy to answer them. We'll also be doing some in-person clinics. So myself and Donna were down in Ballinascarty Community Hall yesterday. Myself and Laura will be in my place in Middleton next Tuesday from 11 to 5. And then over the summer, we'll run a few more in-person clinics as well. And information on that will be put up on our website and on social media. So I might just quickly go to Donna or Laura, and is there anything I missed there? Any standouts?
There was just one question involving, I just answered it, involving just people were wondering what if there was economic activity in a project. So we just answered that really I suppose groups that are precluded, like many of the examples that you gave already, you know, private businesses, traditional retail, those kinds of things, they have economic activity, whereas if a community group is applying, or a social enterprise, which is a business with a social focus, that's not considered economic activity, you know, where you have community ran gym, a community ran hall, different kinds of projects like that. So if people would like to pop any questions into, if they're feel free to add in some questions there for sure, and we can answer them. But again, sometimes people don't always want to discuss their own particular project in an open forum like this, so we can handle those questions as well, privately as well, if someone wants to contact us.
Yeah, thanks, Donna. Laura, was there anything I left out there in the presentation that?
Mark, you have summarised a programme that is over 30 years old in a few minutes. It's remarkable. No, I don't have a huge amount to add to that, only that myself and Mark are available to talk through any projects that you may have an interest in or might be developing over the coming weeks, and that it is a rolling call, so this fund will be open probably for the next 3 to 4 months at the very least. And the last thing we'd say is that, you know, typically it does take a number of months for projects to come together, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I suppose, Laura, that's a very important point as well, is that from our experience, leader projects do take a significant amount of time. So if there is something, if there is a project that your group thinks they want finished by the end of July, it's unlikely that the leader application will be done by then. You're kind of probably looking at a minimum of, would I be right in saying 6 months to completion, which would be a very fast project?
It would be. It certainly would. I know, look, I mean, it depends on how ready the group is. You might bring a project forward, within 3 months. Other projects could take anywhere from 6 months to a year, and we're aware of that as well. But I suppose for any project that you'd like to complete, as Mark mentioned there, within the next few months, it's probably unrealistic to look at a leader grant to fund it. But anything that you're looking at over the next 6 months to a year would be realistic, or would be more realistic.
There's just a query in there from Jose Espina in Green Skibbereen. Forest carbon farming is a growing rural activity that has great potential for supporting communities. Could we propose a training program on forest carbon farming, also including how biodiversity can be supported by SECAD? So there's probably some information around the internal application that we're making as well that you and Laura are working on, Mark, and that's really only in the pipeline. Is that something similar, the internal SECAD application that's gone in?
Yeah, so just to briefly touch on that, thanks, Donna. SECAD also makes internal applications to leader. They're usually training programs. So myself and Laura are working on a project for training around circular economy. Now, forest carbon wouldn't really be covered under that. But Jose, if you want to contact us and you want to talk through that idea, we'd be more than happy to, and potentially look at an application around that. What I would say is, and I'm not that familiar with the forest carbon farming, but I know it has been funded sometimes through other EU funding. And if an aspect of a project has been funded through EU funding, it's not eligible for leader funding, as leader funding is EU funding, and it would be seen as double funding. But if it was an independent aspect of a project, then it should be fine.
Grand, maybe we'd reach out directly to Jose on that one. Is there any other questions there that people would like to pop in? Seems to be it, Mark, on the Q&A.
Great. So, folks, we might leave it there, and I'll let you enjoy the rest of your lunchtime in this heat wave. And if there's any questions at all, do reach out to us. And I suppose that's why we're here, is to help groups apply for this funding and deliver impactful environmental projects. So thank you very much, Donna, and thank you, Laura, and thanks to everyone in attendance. And I hope to chat to some of you soon. Slán, take care.
Great. You want to knock off the recording, Mark?